New developments are emerging in the Donald Trump assassination bid probe, suggesting the involvement of another person in the attack that took place at a rally in Bulter, Pennsylvania. Speculations are suggesting the involvement of another shooter. These speculations come after the National Center for Media Forensics revealed the possibility of a third weapon also being heard during the attack. Questions pertaining to the suspect's access to the rooftop also push one to question whether more people could be involved in the attack. Joining us at this point live is Raymond Vickery, a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce and Trade Development. Raymond Vickery, what do you make of these latest developments emerging in the probe, the pace so far of the investigation, and now, information that possibly there could be another individual involved as well? Prima facie, the FBI on day one had said that they believed it was a lone wolf attack. Perhaps they were preempting and, rather preemptive to say that.
Well, thanks very much for having me. I think there's no question that this is a very tenuous time in the United States and throughout the world. Unfortunately, these things seem to run in cycles. I think it's time that we look at issues and a way to tamp down violence, not just in the United States, but across the world. Whether it be Ukraine, whether it be Gaza, whether it be Bulter, Pennsylvania. In the United States, I feel that the probe will continue and we shouldn't jump to conclusions. But that doesn't mean you can't face the issues right now in the United States, particularly looking at the kind of military style rifle which was used in the attempt on President Trump's life, and the pervasiveness of those kinds of weapons throughout the U.S. Unfortunately, people are trying to sensationalize this for political reasons in some aspects, and that's exactly the wrong way to go. We need to get back to the basic principles that Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and others have taught us, and try to do better for mankind than has been shown in the last few days.
Yes, okay, we're getting more developments meanwhile also coming in on the broadcast. Reports of Iran's involvement in the attack have also emerged. According to some reports, the U.S. authorities received information of an Iranian plot to assassinate Donald Trump several weeks before the attack, after which the security for the former president was boosted. Iran has rubbished the involvement, terming the claims as malicious and unsubstantiated. President Trump is said to have been facing threats from Tehran since the Iranian top military commander Qasem Soleimani's assassination in 2020. Well, joining us at this point live is Ray Locker, presidential historian and author. Ray Locker, an Iranian angle also now emerging. Reportedly, an Iranian threat had been picked up by intelligence agencies. Trump's security was boosted, but clearly not enough. Tehran is rubbishing these claims, but what do you make of them?
Well, I don't doubt that there was some kind of chatter somewhere in the national security system that alerted the Secret Service and the U.S. government there's something coming from Iran. We may never know exactly what that was, because so many of the ways that they pick up this information are classified. But just suffice to say that there's something out there that led people to believe that there was a possible threat. And the only responsible thing to do when you get that information is to tell the people involved and the Secret Service.
Yes. Okay. Well, more developments meanwhile. Let's quickly put this out. Following the attack, President Joe Biden of the United States of America came out in support of his political opponent Donald Trump. Condemning the attack, President Joe Biden further called for a ban on AR-15 guns, the air rifles, the type that were used in the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. He made these statements during a NAACP National Convention speech on Tuesday. Further, the president also requested for a de-escalation in political temperatures and offered his support to both Donald Trump and the family of those killed in this attack. Well, joining us now on this big story is Pradeep Kapoor, former diplomat. Ambassador Kapoor, clearly, of course, President Biden offering his sympathies and offering his support to Donald Trump, his family, and also the family of the individual at the rally who lost his life, calling for a de-escalation in political rhetoric, political temperatures. Do you believe this is a welcome statement? Also, what do you make of his call to ban the type of air rifle that was used in this assassination?
Well, it's a very important issue here in the US. I've been talking about it on many channels, on many occasions. Coming from my background in India, I find it, quite extreme that people are allowed this right to carry guns, to carry assault weapons, which can fire rapidly, which can shoot to kill, not to maim. And there are so many people who believe this is an absolute fundamental right which cannot be touched. This comes from the history of the US, from the beginnings of the US. So, it is so deeply enshrined in their mind and psychology that it is very difficult to shake it up or change it, because so many times I hear that the solution to gun violence, for example, in schools, is to give guns to the school teachers and to the others in the school so that they can shoot the shooters. Now, instead of de escalating and banning guns, and it is taking it to the other extreme. So, this has been happening for a long time because fundamentally the people were told that if the government is anarchist, or if the government is not looking after the interests of the citizens, then the citizens have a right to fight with violent means against the government and overthrow the government, or the senators or congressmen, and thereby this right became quite deeply enshrined in their minds and psychology. Secondly, also, I guess there was a question of self-defense or security, or also the incessant sort of encroachment on the Red Indian territory, which continued for a long time, and killing of the Red Indians ruthlessly, mercilessly by the initial settlers here. And thereafter, the slave trade which happened, and they had to keep the slaves under control. So various factors have rolled into this psychology today, where people who are absolutely sort of in a way, their views on so many issues are so clear and so positive, but on the issue of their right to the gun is something very fundamental in their psyche. So it is necessary for a very broad political consensus to emerge, because the gun lobby here is very powerful, and they, fundraise for a lot of the candidates who are running for the elections. They give a lot of money to those candidates. So those candidates also become bound to the gun lobby to continue the same laws. So how do you affect a fundamental change from the grassroots? A lot of reflection is necessary, a lot of thought is necessary, a lot of joint action is necessary, and this is further been exacerbated by the political divisiveness and the excessive sort of violence in the language, in terms of the advertisements, in terms of their political speeches, which has become the norm. How do you tamp that down? That is another issue which needs to be seriously looked into. So Biden making that statement is very welcome. Now others also have to join in that effort, and there has to be a federal sort of agreement, federal laws, which will say that assault weapons are immediately banned, and thereafter slowly it can roll on further to say that gun ownership is going to become more difficult, etc. Back to you.
Okay, let me quickly, in fact, play out what the US President Joe Biden had to say.
It is this tense moment in this country, and it is a tense moment. Just a few days after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, we're grateful he was not seriously injured. We continue to pray for him and his family. It's time for an important conversation in this country. Our politics has gotten too heated. I've said in the Oval Office on Sunday night, as I made clear throughout my presidency, we all have a responsibility to lower the temperature and condemn violence in any form.
All right, let me quickly go back across to Ray Locker. Ray Locker, this is, a good sign. US President Joe Biden, of course, coming out, speaking to his supporters, speaking to Americans. This has been a very polarizing American election, hasn't it? And we certainly need a de-escalation of the temperature, looking at this incident.
Well, we certainly do. And, the events of Saturday notwithstanding, The problem for this country with this kind of rhetoric since 2015 has been Donald Trump. I mean, he consistently says provocative things, divisive things about Republicans, about Democrats. He says it over and over and over again. He says he wants to be a dictator on day one. He endorses Project 2025, which has all sorts of anti-democratic things in it. He sent his supporters to the Capitol on January 6, 2021, to stop the certification of the presidential election. He said the election was stolen. He was saying that in 2016 before he miraculously won. He has been an enemy of democracy, and people have been calling that out. And then some crackpot who we don't know anything about takes a shot at him, almost kills him, does kill somebody else, and now all of a sudden it's Joe Biden's fault for saying these things about Donald Trump. That, you know, Trump has said repeatedly, basically what Democrats have been doing, have been repeating what Trump has said. And so he has been the problem consistently. Was terrible that someone tried to kill him and actually killed another person. But let's not lose sight of what's been happening here since he first started running for office in 2015.
Yes. Okay. Let me also, in fact, quickly go across to Raymond Vickery. Raymond Vickery, what's also, been a good part of this appeal has been, finally Joe Biden talking about a gun ban, talking about, advocating for restrictions on the use of this AR rifle that was used in this assassination plot.
Yes, there's no question about it. And Joe Biden has a long history of this. When he was in the Senate, he was chief sponsor of actually banning these style rifles for some time. The ban lapsed and was not renewed. The problem is the one that you've pointed out, is that if you have somebody who wants to be a dictator on day one, it's in his interest to try to stir up his backers. And one of the issues which seems to delight and invigorate a large part of his base is people who believe in an unrestricted Second Amendment right to bear arms. So it is a very difficult time. And what really needs to happen is there have to be leaders on the Republican side who will say, yeah, let's step back and take another look at this. One had hoped that this would be a moment of enlightenment for the former president, having come so near to death from this. But he's a showman. He's a guy who made his way in reality TV, and any grist for that mill that'll get more eyeballs and more emotion is for him. So we're in a difficult time, and we have to continue to focus on issues rather than just get caught up in the emotion of the moment.
Yes. Okay. Well, more angles, in fact, emerging now on the broadcast. Let's quickly address them. After conducting more than 100 interviews, perusing through the suspect's home and vehicle, and even cracking into the suspect's phone, FBI investigators are yet to find what motivated 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks to try and assassinate former President Donald Trump. The assassination attempt that shocked the world occurred at a rally in Bulter, Pennsylvania. Amidst a struggle to find the motive behind the attack, the FBI has also warned against retaliatory or follow-up attacks on the former president as the country nears the polls. Further, the investigating team are said to have found more than a dozen guns at the suspect's house. Crooks, the suspect, appears to have borrowed the gun from his father and taken a day off from work on the day of the attack. Ambassador Kapoor continues to be live with us. Ambassador Kapoor, more weapons that have been seized from the premises of the main accused. There was reportedly an explosive device, what looked like a bomb in his car that was found at the site of the shooting. But we still don't know what motivated him to do this. What was the motive, the reason behind this plot, Ambassador Kapoor?
Well, there have been a lot of discussions about the possibility, why he would pick up a gun and go to the extent of trying to assassinate the former president. One of these is that he comes from a household which may have had a lot of polarizing discussions between his father and his mother also, because his father was a registered Republican and his mother was a registered Democrat. Besides that, all the political rhetoric going all over the place, I wouldn't put all the blame on one side, the Republicans. I can look at it from a more removed perspective and a neutral perspective. I see a lot of leftists also using the same violent language on the Democratic side. And that's why all the ads were pulled out from the Democrat, ads were pulled back from all the media immediately after the assassination attempt. So it's very essential for both the sides to understand how polarized the society has become, how divisive the dialogue has become, and how to cool the tempers down and the temperatures down. Because if you can incite a young adult, 20 years old, who graduated from high school 2 years back, who had no criminal record, and he is now willing to pick up an AR-15 rifle and try his hand at killing Donald Trump. It's a very serious matter, because so far, if no motives have emerged, if they have cracked through his phone, and they have not been able to see what could have incited him to do that, it makes it even more serious that the society has become so polarized that for a person like that, who's otherwise innocuous, who can be a person passing you on the street every day next to you, and there is no alarm bells in the police department or in the Secret Service to show that he could indulge in such an act. So how do you now send out the message that this, is something which we have all decided, not only both the parties, but the country as a whole, that this is something which should not be tolerated and will not be tolerated. And the way ahead is to have a very peaceful, election, a very peaceful campaigning, and not indulging in any violent rhetoric, which both the sides have been doing excessively, in my opinion. I'm quite shocked at the sort of violent rhetoric which is there in terms of taking out people and stuff like that. So taking out meaning killing people.
Yes.
So if that is the sort of thing which has been going around so many months now, it's about time to create a change,
Yes.
and there's a good occasion to create that change.
Raymond Vickery, we certainly hope for that. Less polarization, less violent rhetoric, and also, of course, what's concerning though also is the fact that even as the motive currently eludes the authorities in their investigation, there is a warning of possible further attacks as well in the days ahead.
Well, there's no question that there's an opportunity here for both reconciliation and for greater violence. I just say, as a person who lived through the 60s, where we had the assassination of John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, I was supposed to go to the convention with Bobby Kennedy at that time, Martin Luther King, that the United States has a great capacity for resilience, as does India and as does any democracy. And it's now a time in which we can stand together and we can bring order out of the chaos. And history shows us that is an outcome. So we shouldn't despair about this. What we should do is try to inject what you're doing, and that is rationality, into the discussion.
Absolutely. Okay, we're getting more breaking developments coming in. Let's quickly go across to them. Well, as per reports in the US, bizarre explanation is coming in from Secret Service Director, and that has now gone viral, speaking on why an agent was not stationed on the roof where gunman Thomas Matthew Crooks opened fire on former President Donald Trump. Kimberly Cheetle, who has faced calls for resignation over the security failure, revealed that the US security agency, which provides round-the-clock protection to sitting and former presidents, considered the roof of a nearby warehouse too risky for an agent's placement during Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. So this is quite a shocker. The statement, of course, that has been made by Kimberly Cheetle. What do you make of this bizarre explanation, Ray Locker? It was a clear security lapse not having an agent on that roof, which allowed that gunman to be there unchecked. And now the head says that it was too risky, and that is why they did not place an agent there.
Well, that's probably true in many locations. I mean, I'm not there. I'm not making that judgment. I'm sure the Secret Service people on the ground looked at it and said, probably no one could get there. Obviously, in retrospect, that seems to have been a serious mistake. Not to mention that building was a staging area for the local police, and they didn't see anybody going up there. So there were tons of mistakes made on Saturday with respect to this attack. I don't know what they were thinking. You have somebody standing outside in clear view of everybody. You should have every rooftop nailed down to make sure that no one can get up there. Because obviously the shooter was highly motivated to take a shot at the former president. And so you have to understand that in that case, your concerns about risk for your agents are outweighed by the motives or the motivations of that person, the shooter, to take a shot at the president. As far as the motive, we may never know what his motive was. We don't even know what Lee Harvey Oswald's motive was for shooting President Kennedy in 1963. Sometimes those things are just unknowable.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.